Hi everyone, welcome back to Tech Booth. Today, 10 steps to get you going on this Panasonic HC-X2000 or any camera for that matter. All you need to know is how to get around the menu system of whatever camera you have. And just follow these 10 steps and you'll be ready to shoot in no time. Just a note about this camera: if you want to access the menu, you can hold the touch screen for 2 seconds and it will bring up the context menu where you can access all your menu items, or you can access the menu directly on the side using the menu button. Step 1 seems rather obvious, but make sure your batteries are charged. This camera charges the battery on the camera itself, but only when the camera is off. So I'd recommend that you buy yourself an external charger and an extra battery, because this one only lasts 4 hours. And if you have a program that's longer than 4 hours, you are not able to charge the battery on the camera while it is working. Second step is to prepare your recording media. This camera can use both SDXC cards and SDHC cards, but can only use SDHC for the lowest recording resolution on the camera. So I recommend that you just buy the fastest card that you can afford to use on this particular camera or whatever camera you're using. I also recommend that you format your recording media each time you want to use it. Formatting your card in the camera, make sure that 1, it is compatible with your camera, and 2, you have access to the fastest read and write speeds for the cards that you are using. In TV talk or broadcast talk, we talk about NTSC, which is used mainly in the United States of America, and PAL, which is used mainly in the rest of the world. So if you're using this camera in the US, make sure you set your frequency to 59.94. That's the NTSC system, and you'll have access to frame rates that are compatible with that system. If you are anywhere else in the world, make sure you set your frequency to 50, which is the PAL or SECAM system, and you have the PAL and SECAM frame rates available to you. This particular camera can record in 3 file formats: MOV, MP4, and AVCHD. MOV files are the largest, but you also get the largest variety of recording formats on this camera. And then MP4 is probably the most common for everyday recording. If you want the highest resolution, then shoot in MOV. Just make sure you have the space and also the computing power to be able to edit those files. Once you've chosen your file format, the next thing is to choose your recording format. This is up to you, or if you are shooting for a client, make sure you understand what recording formats they want. On this camera, you can shoot in 4K or HD. The 2160 is your 4K and the 1080 is your HD. You also need to choose your frame rate. There's 25 and 50 available for PAL, and you get 30 and 60 for NTSC. The next thing you want to set is your shutter speed. Usually for video production, you set your shutter speed once and you don't really change it. And the general rule is that your shutter speed should be double that of your frame rate. So if you are shooting at 25 frames per second, then you want your shutter speed to be 1/50th of a second. The next thing you want to do is to set your white balance. White balance is a way of telling your camera what white looks like in the environment that you are in terms of lighting. If you don't set your white balance correctly, you might find that your video looks bluish in certain lights. It might look greenish under fluorescent lights, and it might look reddish under incandescent lighting. So you need to tell the camera what white looks like under your lighting conditions. For this video, the quick way to set your white balance is just to press the white balance on the side of the camera and cycle through some of the presets that you find there until you get the one that looks most natural. There is a whole process of setting the white balance manually, but this is a good place to start. Most cameras these days come with what we call a picture profile, and these are presets that make your video look a certain way. It might look natural, it might look a bit saturated, or it might look a bit flat. Choosing a picture profile is a preference. To start off with, you can choose one that just looks natural and that doesn't require any post-production color correction or color grading. To adjust the exposure of your image, you're mostly going to be using your iris. This particular camera comes with two rings on the lens. The front ring is for focusing and the back one is for zooming. But the back one can be reassigned to be your iris or aperture, and this is what I prefer. So you can go into the menu and change that ring to be your iris or aperture control ring. Otherwise, you go to the side and you press the iris button, making sure that your camera is in manual mode, and you can use the front jog wheel to adjust your iris or aperture and hence adjust your exposure. Exposure can also be adjusted by using your ISO, or on this camera it's called the gain. This is a digital exposure manipulation, and the thing about it is if you use an extremely high ISO or gain, your image becomes very grainy. So try and use the lowest ISO, and then either invest in lighting to make sure that you don't have to use too much gain, or shoot in good lighting conditions again to keep your gain low. Finally, you want to make sure that your audio is good. On this camera you have three options. The first one is the internal microphone. The second one is your line input, which is on the side of the camera and uses an 1/8 inch jack. The best one though is the one that comes on the camera handle, which are professional XLR left and right inputs, and you can connect your microphone to those inputs, either shotgun microphone or wireless microphones. And then you have all your controls on the side, and the controls will control different things like where the audio is going to be coming from, the level of the audio, whether the microphone require 48-volt phantom power, which mic the camera is going to be using, and also whether you're going to have different left and right channels or everything going to one channel. And that's it. Those are the 10 steps that you need to take to get you going to begin with on this camera. Once you get these 10 steps down, you can then go into more detail in how you refine your video and audio as you shoot.